showtime! It has been an entire year since my 99 Problems with Genshin Impact video, and I think it's about time to check in on them and see just how many of these problems have been fixed or improved in some way, or maybe in some cases even have gotten worse. Limited map pins. With the introduction of Sumeru, this problem has only gotten so much worse. 150 was bad when it was Inazuma. Now, this situation is becoming absolutely unbearable, and I find myself deleting pins all the time. No new pin icons. Still, we haven't gotten anything added to this. Still no puzzle piece. Or is still unaffected by animo abilities, and I don't expect this to ever change, sadly. Yep, still no auto loot. And what I mean by that is how artifact domains, you used to actually have to pick up the artifacts. Instead now, where they just get directly put into your inventory. I want them to do that, but for enemy drops. Putting a wish pity counter somewhere on the screen. Now, they still haven't done this. However, they did make the wish history page 5 per page instead of the old 6 per page, which is, I'd say, a little bit better. Now it's just a little bit worse at teaching people multiplication. I maintain that a 3-star weapon as a wish reward still feels like a colonoscopy done with a cheese grater. The battle pass still doesn't go past 50 for infinite but lesser rewards, which is sad because it's becoming easier and easier to lazily complete this thing early. Quests that are blocked by other quests, particularly events. Those were really bad, and this one is one they actually did help. With the quick start option on most story-related event quests, you can actually just start the thing right away and you just don't know who the characters are, but it's not really that big of a deal, and it's not a full fix, but this helps a lot. Non-voiced quests. This is another one I don't expect to actually change because it's just something you expect in a game with this many quests. It's a little bit unreasonable to voice every single little NPC in a quest that takes maybe like 5 minutes. Still, no extra world level for AR60. Come on, I just want to make the overworld a little bit more difficult if I want to test things out and not go in the abyss or in a domain. Treasure compass cooldown is still as it always was, which is, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it is annoying enough to make me just never really want to use these things much unless I'm really going for completion. Shatter being totally garbage. Now, a lot of people have started using Shatter in some little teams, but it's not exactly the focus. Just a little extra bonus, and I don't consider Shatter being fixed by any means. Nope, we still cannot pet the animals, even though they run up to you and they look at you and stuff. Clearly, the animals only wish to taunt us and nothing more. To my dismay, Amber, Kai, and Lisa are still left out of limited banners. Duplicate cooking passives on new 5-stars. Now, this is not something they fixed by any means because Nilou has the exact same passive as Yunjin, which is just a major letdown to see. I don't know. I'd rather just have anything else, even if it's total garbage like Baiju's. Gliding is still slow, even with the gadget that unfortunately I never use because it takes up my one and only gadget slot. That's just annoying. Gliding handling is still absolutely atrocious. Why is the air practically made of peanut butter? The original complaint here was that Kaching's charge attack cost too much and she just burnt through her stamina so quickly, but that was mostly just because Kaching just wasn't really that viable, and Dendro totally fixed that, so I consider this fixed. Spectres. One of my original main complaints about these elemental little hellspawn is that they couldn't be sucked in by animo characters, but they did actually fix that and make that work, so I would consider this absolutely fixed. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the shielded Ruin Sentinels. Their shield is still an absolute pain in the ass to deal with if you use a character like Ganyu, since even if you shoot them from behind, it does nothing, which is, what the hell? Dailies that require a specific element, like the Sumeru ones where you gotta grow the little plant with a hydro element. So this was absolutely not changed. We still have to deal with this nonsense. Repair the balloon dailies still absolutely suck. EXP still does not refund like weapon materials, which I think is a problem of the increments, but they can still round down. You still cannot teleport to Andreas. My fix is just not do them, but the problem is still there. The Dawn Winery has a waypoint in every area around itself except for the winery itself because Diluc is still too poor to afford one of his very own. We still cannot disable 5-star burst cutscenes, which most people consider blasphemous, but I would still like to have the option. The wish pity is still very, very high, and expecting this to change is like expecting the United States to become unified politically. The bell is still homeless. To this day, we still have no skip cutscene or dialogue button. This is a major reason why I just don't play my alt account anymore at all. Still nothing like a gallery for those cutscenes in case we ever want to watch them again. Even with Sumeru, there's still no NPC that will actually buy all the mass amount of meat and fish that we farm that we just don't cook with a lot because food can't be used in the Spiral Abyss. The amount of EXP that mobs give is still incredibly low, especially for elites. Flat stats are still as crappy as they used to be, not interacting with multiplicative stats in any way, shape, or form, which is really just a shame. We've also not seen the addition of any new stats on things like artifacts, things like cooldown reduction, attack speed, things that we can only get from from set bonuses or buffs from other characters, which is a real shame because artifact building can be a little bit boring sometimes. Many interesting 4 sets such as the Berserker or the Gambler still have no way to get a 5-star version of them, which I kind of understand. The Berserker is a little bit generic, but some of these sets would be genuinely interesting to have 5-star versions of. No Sacrificial Polearm, which a lot of people made me aware that it was a lore reason apparently, which understandably I guess, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't like to have one to play around with. Teapot load limit only gets worse with every new edition because it's just more stuff we can't add. Toggleable constellations. Now call me a toxic optimist, but I expected to have this by now, and it's kind of shocking that we don't, given that we have characters like Bennett that genuinely might want to disable their constellation. Having only one gadget slot only gets worse and worse with every new gadget that we would like to have on our bars at all times. The Seed Dispensary is still a problem in that it's a gadget that you have to have equipped for some reason, even though this could easily be a passive at just having it in your inventory should just work. And the Seed Dispensary itself has a very small limit on how many seeds you can hold. Now I just stopped using this entirely, but it's annoying. While Tusser hasn't showed up again, thank God, every day I remember he exists, he becomes more of a problem. It's baffling for a game that this old, we still have no way to completely turn off every single UI element. QA is having some really weird questions that I don't think a lot of people were actually asking, and honestly, they didn't really do much of these. In 2022, apparently they did none at all. Originally, I was really sad that they stopped doing Teapot times, but they did actually kind of bring it back a little bit. Still no dialogue frequency slider. We still lack the ability to change the languages of characters individually for those times when I would just rather not be able to understand what Kaching is saying. Traveler being unable to change their element anywhere without a Statue of the Seven is still a gigantic pain in the ass. Lacking loadouts only becomes exponentially worse. With every new artifact set and the introduction of Dendro, characters get more builds and more builds you would like to use at different times. Shield health bars still do not exist, and by extension we don't have any buff icons. Really, I mean we have some, but they don't tell us anything, not even the duration of the buffs. They just tell us we have a buff. Nothing like a combat log has been added yet, and with Dendro we have a lot of teams that do a lot of little numbers, especially when you use a unit like Alhaitham, and having a strong unit like Alhaitham would be a really good time to have a training dummy so it doesn't die in like 5 seconds. New players still don't have anything like permanent test trials of trio characters that maybe are coming down the line. They actually added boring Spiral Abyss cards back in, so this got worse. Quest dialogue giving the Traveler pointless options where they say things like ... or okay that contribute nothing still continues to this day, and the Traveler still doesn't speak and instead does that stupid crap that just interrupts the flow of dialogue and makes the story just a lot less interesting for someone like me. Minimap is still unable to be zoomed or controlled in any way. Being unable to jump attacks like Ashtaha's Ground Slam has not changed. Dailies that feel more like small side quests are still a thing in Sumeru, so this sadly has not changed at all. I want every region to have 4 dailies and you can just pick and choose any 4 of your choosing. This would actually fix many little problems I have. Having expeditions at awkward times like 20 hours or 15 hours was kind of annoying to me, but honestly I would call the new expedition passives kind of a fix to this. Even with Sumeru, the stamina bar has not gotten any bigger, which I think for combat balance reasons it probably never will. Bosses still take a few minutes to respawn instead of teleporting away and teleporting back and they automatically respawn for you. Minimap still doesn't have enemy icons. We have gotten more skins, but they still seem rather slow, and hey, we have gotten a skin for a dude. This is the dumbest thing, but we still can't even use the Sony glider for God's sakes outside of the PlayStation Network. Trees still have this stupid hitting cooldown. We have even more unhittable trees with Sumeru now. Now Genshin does have push notifications, but they are kind of inconsistent. However, the Hoyoverse widget actually is kind of better than them, so I would say fixed. Electro may not counter Hydro like I wanted, but Dendro sure does. The camera unfortunately still leaves a Genshin Impact logo in the bottom right of your screenshot. Golden Apple Archipelago did not stay in the game again, but after 2.8, geez, I don't want that version, I want the 1.6 version to stay in the game. Story keys maintain to be a very archaic feeling mechanic that doesn't really serve any purpose. I don't think this is a meaningful limitation to new players at all. They should just be removed. Fishing is basically as dead as it was then. After you get the catch, there's really not much of a reason to do this. Wave Rider spawn points still do not act as waypoints in any way. There is still yet to be any implementation of any kind of in-game event calendar where we can see the entire schedule for the current patch. Artifact EXP from the Teapot is still very, very expensive and not something I would generally advise people buying due to its high cost compared to the other resources that are harder to farm. Food not being usable in the Spiral Abyss is something that really perplexes me for an open world game. It should reward you for exploring the open world and gathering these resources. If you're a strong player, your reward is not having to use these materials. And yes, I understand that newer players might struggle with certain domains and food can really help out. These 2-piece artifact bonuses that increase resistance to specific elements are just way too niche and really not not rewarded in the current state of Genshin Impact. Things like Widsith still proc out of combat, and things like Husk still decrease while out of combat. Just any of these things that proc or decrease out of combat, it all really just hurts you in the open world. Toggled aim mode still has this really stupid delay on it that you can just bypass by not using the toggle, but not using it can also be kind of annoying for some players. The friend list size has actually increased since then, but it's not really exactly a gigantic increase and probably still not enough for a lot of players, but I suppose you could still call this a fix. Nope, still no auto run. Some enemies still have these really cool attacks that no player's ever gonna see, because when would they ever live long enough to see this in a realistic scenario? Yep, Albedo's elevator still does this and still destroys itself when it collides with a large enemy hitbox sometimes, and that can be really annoying, especially since I use Albedo all the time with my Ito. Please fix this. Teapot clipping, there's no debate about this one. They just did this. Like, I mean, they didn't just do it, but they actually just implemented this as a feature that anyone can do without any hassle. Unfortunately, trees are still these load limit behemoths, which is a damn shame because trees are an easy way to make your teapot look full of life and look really beautiful. God, I hate load limit. Arrows may not home in on enemies like I wanted them to, but at least they made it so dead bodies don't act as shield for arrows anymore. I don't actually remember if this was changed before this, but I'm gonna give them points for that because it's far more annoying. Genshin still has not shown up on Steam, which, you know, isn't unreasonable given that Honkai is on there, but, you know, there's probably reasons why it's not on here. It doesn't mean I don't wish it was. A sound effect library is something that I've wanted for a long time. If you ever want an enemy sound effect, you have to hope that somebody else maybe found a way to clean it up or extract it from a game file or something, because if you try to record it yourself, it's just going to be drowned out by attack sounds from your characters and all the stuff like that. Weapon crystals not showing up at the top of your inventory screen is something I can kind of understand because you want the 5 stars to be first, but when you reverse sort it, they should show up because they're supposed to be at the bottom, or they could just use the bottom of the screen to actually show the ore, kind of like Mora. Either way, it's still kind of annoying to see. Sayu and Yaoya's passives still only allow you to get a single crystal fly before they start flying away. Those poor mobile users. Ito does indeed still get to use the Golden Wolf Lord as a skate ramp. 99 here at the end. Liz one literally just a joke. I just made a joke about people not subscribing to the channel, and hey, it went from 16.3 to 17.2. Improvement. It's small, but it's there. The real 99th problem was Xingqiu's shorts, which is still a very serious problem, that he really needs pants. 11 being fixed isn't too bad because some of the problems they fixed were really serious problems, like clipping in the teapot, being afraid of it being a glitch and just being removed one day. That was really worrisome. Specters were really annoying to deal with, and being able to be CC'd by Animo, that actually helped a lot. If you took away my complaint about the pity being so high, I would literally trade every single problem on this entire list just for artifact loadouts, well, artifact and weapon loadouts. But how about you watching? Has anything that you've really wanted been fixed, or like problems you've had? Maybe it was something on this list, maybe it's something that's not on this list. Hell, I've even been thinking about making a follow-up to this video for quite a while, but in any case, thank you for watching. Thank you to my patrons, my members, for supporting me. Please beg for artifact loadouts anywhere you can, and I'll see you in the next one.
Attaboy!